Let me begin that this day, 15th November 2025, is celebrated as Janjatiya Gaurav Varsh. On this occasion, entire nation is paying tribute to the contribution and sacrifice done by our ancestors from tribal communities in the nation's freedom struggle. The motive behind designating this day as Gaurav Varsh basically inspired by the thought that this date is the birth date of Bhagwan Birsa Munda. So he, as a legend, his resistance against British colonialism actually been considered as one of the earlier voice in Indian history that to generate the consciousness that we need self-autonomy and we need to establish our own self-governance system in our territory. Well, this occasion actually, I think this occasion is also significant that from the call, for bringing the call among the communities for the scheduled tribes and as well as for the mainstream society as well, that there is a necessity to restore the glory of Janjatis. But this restoration of glory of Janjatis, I think it is creating an alternative pathway or pushing us to move in an alternative way, that where that if we take into the literature, the research writings and the status of the Janjatis communities in India, that most of them dominantly representing the viewpoint that they are in a landscape of marginality. So I hope that this day encourage all of us to work together for going towards that, to bringing into the mainstream that their contribution, that what they have done for this nation and how actually their knowledge system is really contributing towards nation building process. So one of the theme I have chosen over here, that the citizenship or tribe as citizen. And because while we are talking about the idea of sustainability, now as all of you know that all the nation states are struggling that how to achieve the idea of sustainability, and I think most of our plenary speakers before and now also Professor Mathur highlighted some of those ideas, maybe in specific fields. Some highlighted the case of health and language, all these things, but I'm going to tell you about something about the general way that how actually being a citizen, what our expectation generally commences from towards the nation state, and how tribe actually views himself or herself as a citizen. So let me take you back to the India's independence movement, and while we got our with that struggle when we got our constitution. So as Professor Ratnavali highlighted about the constitutional thing about Indian tribes, so we got all of us become citizen of India. And as a citizen, so generally that we all are equal. We all are equal, and there is, so far as the modern idea of citizenship is concerned, that here none of our ascriptive status matters. Maybe it is maybe our caste or gender or all these things becomes immaterial while we are theoretically reading about what the concept of citizen is. And for us, that we got this this status after experiencing colonialism. And I hope you are also aware about the writings the Western scholars have produced, that who is actually a citizen, like some of the popular understanding, like citizenship is basically a status, illegal status, whereas some other understanding like citizen is somebody who is actually performing his duty towards the nation. So if we go by this kind of modern way of looking at who is a citizen, so we are getting that tribes and tribal communities somewhere that as the history suggests, that they were into a kind of situation of struggle with the state itself. So citizen as a legal concept, as a political concept, actually centered around the idea of the state. And if we take into account the history of the tribal communities, Janjati communities, since the beginning, that when particularly during the British era and subsequently also in post-independence era, that they continued to be in struggle with the state. And one of the primary concern for them was that how to actually rescue their livelihood, how to actually rescue their sacred land. So here that I am here looking towards that the aspect of environmental sustainability through the lens of a tribal citizen, that whether this the so-called discourse on sustainable development and sustainability, which gained attention after the different global summits. So, so for tribal communities, this concern always continues to persist. So in that regard, if we consider that all the cases like that their struggle towards rescuing their own livelihood and sacred land, it is standing, one could take it as a kind of in opposition to the dominant view of citizenship, where that people are candidates for the benefits and obligations towards that for the state, but they are not essentially ecological communities or having some kind of conscious having their duty towards environment. But if we look at the tradition of tribal communities, their initiatives, the concern for environment continues to prevail, which was not at earlier stages of independence was not essentially recognized, but though Indian Constitution in Article 21, which subsequently been expanded, recognized that the group rights, the access to livelihood, all these things, though it recognized, and subsequently it frequently been come up through different kinds of judicial pronouncement. So here, what I'm going to tell you about something that where if we compare with the mainstream writing, like you take the case of that those scholars who are writing on environmentalism and environmental consciousness, like you take the recent example like the Ramchandra Guha's book, Speaking with Nature. So if you have gone through the review of this book, that many scholars have highlighted that why not some personalities from the tribal communities were being mentioned, why only the discourse is been surrounded with some of the leading thinkers. Why? So this actually pushing us to think in a direction that is it a time to have a thinking that for the new generation of scholars, that to write about that those personalities that who have done something good or great towards their society, and what actually how their contribution to be scalable at the level of the nation and also up to the extent of the global level. So here, being a scholar, I am always been struggled with the concern that like we do have the Dalit studies, which is now expanded quite a lot. And they are continuously, it's not mobilization from the grassroots. It is also mobilization from the academic sphere, in the people who are in media. They continue to write about this thing and continues to discuss about that what should be the strategy, how to actually bring our core concern into the mainstream. And they are also, it is not just about the marginalization, it is also about our experience towards contributing something towards the nation. So if we are bringing their strategy, we can get the sense that Janjati's communities are, I think, far ahead in terms of contribution than just asserting. No doubt that the movements who have mentioned about the tribal assertion. But so far as contributions are concerned, I think somehow it is been neglected to be well documented. So there is a necessity to have to go for that documentation. Like if we take into account the different kinds of traditions, like recently in the Madhya Pradesh, the Bhil community, they revived their tradition, which is popularly known as Halma tradition. That is a water conservation strategy. And if we take into account the personal initiative, independent initiatives by many members from the different tribal communities, like Kamla Pujari ji from that who initiated efforts for paddy preservation, and she had successfully able to preserve 100 varieties of paddy. But her knowledge about preserving that farming technique subsequently been a launch pad for the MS Swaminathan Foundation. Then we can also take efforts like Jadev Payang, that Padma Shri awardee, who actually turned barren land into a complete forest area. And also recently Chami Murmu from Jharkhand, who also got recognition for converting a barren land, arid land, into a forest. So there are many personalities which in recent years have been awarded by the government of India with the honor of Padma Shri. So I think such trend needs to be taken into seriously, to engage into the work that Janjati communities are not actually really a kind of situation of backwardness. Rather, their vision need a scalability framework. But how far actually the departments, like we are considering primarily anthropology department as the linkage between the tribes and with other social science department. We used to read the anthropological perspectives that to understand tribes, though they do have disagreement how tribes to be defined, but still the discipline from which I come from, political science, we used to rely on anthropology. And no, we should not deal with the issue of definition, because that is the job of anthropology people. And also we should not deal with the deciding that whether the language is something kind of bearing the message of empowerment. That is the job of linguistic. But where we are observing the trend of mobilization, like maybe picking of language, maybe picking up the issue of environment. So we are thinking that, okay, there is an alternative way that this community member, they are pictured, they are labeling themselves, okay, they are somehow unique and having in a position of contributing something. There is a kind of assertion. So in that regard, I think that there is a necessity to study that how tribes as an ecological community are contributing towards the nation building process. And here, particularly, the responsibility lies on Indian academia, not from somebody from coming outside, and particularly for those students who are going into higher education from tribal communities, and also to the teachers as well, that how they are after, like most of the speakers, they told you about the migration issue and how actually urbanization is happening in tribal areas. So here, like if we take the case of the writing of Andre Bete, like who made a systematic distinction between caste and that tribe, that where we can get the sense that here tribe is, though we are saying that development needs to be done, but the social status of tribe, still they are continuing with their identity. Identity remains to be the same. They may stay in the urban sphere or wherever they may stay, but they will identify themselves as, okay, I belongs to this tribe. But here, that their connection with environmental sustainability only can be sustainable if it will act as a kind of, it will come into an action-centric purpose. So here, like if we go by Ramchandra Guha's definition, that environmentalism isn't just an idea, it is also a verb. So, and some of the anthropologists also mentioned about that there is a necessity to identify the tribes with their orientation towards the nature. So in that regard, I think responsibility lies on the young generation and those who are actually migrating, how they are sustaining their affiliation with the nature. And I think they could, in their behavioral pattern, they can bring that distinction from the others, that we are really the son and daughters of nature, and we are not here to harm the nature, rather we are part of it. So I think in this way, the families, the tribal families, and all the kind of, you could say, association, like student tribal associations, they are found to be in majorities of the universities. I think they need to discuss that, and there we can be able to strengthen this ecological conception of citizenship, because here that no doubt that, as Guha raised, that it is a matter of survival for the third world states, for the Asian states and a state like India, that concern for environmentalism is a matter of livelihood. But for Western, they already have experienced, exhausted with industrialized society, so that's why they pursue the idea of environmentalism. But I don't think that in case of our tribal communities, they are really, no doubt the livelihood concern is there, but still there is also a kind of imagination. Maybe they're staying in the urban place, but they are linking themselves with the place where they are belonging, the nature, the surrounding the forest, all these things. So with this word, I am ending over here. So thank you.